Guilty Gear Strive has more playable characters than any other previous Guilty Gear game, and when Season 4 concludes, it will finish with 32 characters. And for reference, Guilty Gear Xrd 2, Xrd Revelator 2.1, wow, okay, has 25 characters. And I myself in this game have played every single character except Jacko, Nagoriyuki, Ino, Bedman, and Bridget. Or another way you can look at it is I played 25 out of the 30 characters, so I basically played every character in Guilty Gear Xrd Revelator. Not true. Anyway, in this video, I did want to talk about what I've actually learned from playing so many characters in this game. This video is brought to you by OperaGX. OperaGX is a browser for gamers, and they have a brand new, fresh, and clean look. The UI is sleek. The sidebar is transparent to provide an immersive experience. The icons are clear, and of course, OperaGX, much like many games, has mods of their own to customize your experience. There's a bunch you could choose from: GX Boy, Horror, Cyberpunk, Lo-Fi Chill if you want to take it back a couple years. You can visit the GX store in order to tweak things to your preference. You can also go to the GX Corner, and that's your hub to keep you up to date on things like gaming deals and news. Even the settings have been cleaned up to be nice and sleek. Finally, if you're worried about things like your bookmarks or whatever other personalized settings you use in your current browser, you can simply just import them to OperaGX. And on top of that, Opera is compatible with every Chrome extension. You can either click the link in the description below or the pinned comment in order to download the browser and give it a try. Also, thanks to Opera for sponsoring this video. And I want to start with the Gatling system. So when this game was announced and they were talking about changes they were making between Xrd and Strive, the Gatling changes were one of the most controversial changes they made to the game. I myself made a couple of videos about this. But now that I've played this game for a few years now, the changes to the Gatling system is definitely maybe the single best change they've made from Xrd to Strive. So in this game, they changed the Gatling system so it's more universal. So everyone has the same general Gatling chains. So you have punches into command things like 6P, 6K in Viking's case because she has one, and 6H, along with being special cancelable. Kicks, you have similar options, but notably punches and kicks don't go into each other. Your close slash has the most options out of any buttons that you have. It goes into any command normal, other slashes like 2S or far slash, and also heavy buttons, in addition to dust and sweep. Your close slash is very open-ended. It even has additional cancels like a dash cancel and a jump cancel. On the other hand, your heavy buttons have relatively limited options. They don't go into each other in any way. They're basically just special cancelable. And the same goes for your sweep. Dust is a little bit unique as it's a command overhead, so it's neither special cancelable nor jump cancelable or anything like that. But if you have meter, you can cancel it safely or go into a combo. That's pretty much how everyone's Gatlings works. There are small differences between the characters. So for instance, like Baiken can't mash out her kicks. She can mash out punches though. But Milia has the ability to mash on her 5K. Characters universally have a 6P and 6H, but not everyone has something like Baiken 6K or Milia's 6K or Soul's 6S, for example. The best thing about this system is the onboarding process to play a new character. Without this system, it is very unlikely I play 5 characters in this game. And interestingly enough, out of all the Arc System Works games I played, Guilty Gear has had the hardest onboarding problem, but mostly just because it's the oldest out of all the games. Characters are different in every single aspect you can think of. Weight, as in the fall speed of a character, speeds they get up both face up and face down, backdash speeds, throw sizes, how fast they build tension, but most importantly for anyone starting a character is the Gatlings, the moves you actually choose to use. Of course, you would expect for characters to have different combos, but it also affects how you would pick what button to press in what situation. So I'm going to take a look at 2 Xrd characters, Milia and Faust. And both these characters have 6Ps. Honestly, pretty good ones. Now, Milia can chain her 6P into a bunch of things. Things like her close slash, far slash if you're further, and interestingly enough, 2S. She can also go into heavy buttons like 5H and 6H, and 2H, and her dust, but not sweep. It's also cancelable into special moves and supers. This is not weird in anime fighters at all. Really, Strive is the odd one out here. In this game, 6P, the dedicated anti-gear, is cancelable into special moves, supers, wild assault, and that's really it. She doesn't really have normal Gatling options off this, but neither does Baiken, neither does any character in this game. They all share the exact same ones. But Faust is a curious example here. This character has no Gatling options off his 6P at all. He only has the ability to special cancel and super cancel, and that's basically it. A common option that Faust players will use would be to do 6P in the item toss, in which the item toss itself is maybe like twice as fast total duration as the one in Strive. There are other oddities between these two characters though. For example, Faust 2K, which he shares in Strive, is jump cancelable in this game, where Milia's is not. Both these characters also have a reverse beat. The Melty Blood player in me came out there, but this is when you go backwards in the chain. So if the assumption is that you go from punch kick slash heavy slash dust, so Faust has close slash into 5P. So reminder that the order is supposed to be punch kick slash heavy slash dust. So that's an example of going backwards. But also Milia, the character that I played in tournaments the entirety of Guilty Gear Xrd, so like 2014 to like 2020 for me, this character has close slash 6P, which I did not know she had. A reminder, I mained this character, I competed with this character, I won events with this character, and this character requires a lot, honestly every character in this game requires quite a bit of like detailed knowledge to execute on, and I did not know she had the Gatling. That should tell you how odd some of these Gatling selections are. And as someone who's done these things, I don't really know what you would use this for, besides the fact that you could go into a launcher, but she could do it off her close slash anyway, so you don't need to go into 6P first. Anyway, this is just looking at two different characters though. Even though the universal rule is PKSHD, Faust specifically doesn't have it. He does not have 2P 2K or 2P 5K, nor does he have 5P 5K or 5P 2K. So if someone told you that the chain was punch kick slash heavy slash dust, Faust just can't do it. So you also have these pretty meaningful, you need to press the right button for the right situation and know which odd Gatling rule you might need to use for that situation. Of course, there's general things you could do, but occasionally you need to do something very specific. And of course, not every character is going to do the same thing in Stripe either, but the characters sharing the same rules, at least from a baseline, actually makes it make a lot of sense once you get used to the new system. It actually got to the point where I wasn't even discouraged from trying like hard characters like Sato, for example, who I played in Season 1. The second thing I learned is that no one is really actually that bad, especially after the recent tier list I made. I can really see the power floor of the game being brought up. And I don't think this is that bad, especially since launch. In casual play, you can pretty much use anyone, and I think this is like a really huge goal of all fighting game devs right now. I know it sounds like obvious or dumb, but like in the past, there were just, even at casual level, characters you could not use because they were so bad and flawed, and now I think that's practically gone. The way they express it in this game is making sure that characters have situations they can aim for. Launch Jacko was considered to be pretty weak, but she had the ability to both drain an enemy's tension and do massive damage on block if they didn't use Faultless Defense, thanks to the original version of her Attack Cheer Super, which lasted a really long time on launch compared to now. Gold Lewis was another character that was considered to be pretty weak on launch, and funny enough, this is the version where I played him. But depending on who you talked to in that version, he had better offense back then compared to now, because on launch, FD added block stun when you used it, like Xrd, and since he was doing guard crush stuff, he wasn't getting additional pushback. So it's supposed to be, you do the FD, you push him away, but there's more block stun, but since everything he does has guard crush, he doesn't get pushed away, but he also gets the extra frame advantage. So once he was in, he was like really in. Faust's command grab has been strong since launch, and Milia, despite not doing a lot of damage on launch, had her powerful 50-50s off 2K2B. Now don't get it twisted though, all these characters had big problems that needed to be solved, but the big takeaway here is that you can really use anybody, especially if you're not trying to compete, and there are a bunch of different playstyles, which I do think is good for the game. But that brings me to number 3. I don't really think all the characters are being played to their highest potential. Now, the lazy way of saying this would be that not every character has like an international or world-class player playing them, so they aren't being played as well as they could be. But we do have to give player bases some credit here. One of the first things I do when I start a new character is I try to think about what people say about the character and see if the character can actually like do it. So I want to use May and Testament here for examples, because I did mention I played 25 out of 30 characters in the game, but these two are pretty special in that I've competed with both of them. For May, I used her in season 3.2 for that 3-month kind of in-between period of Evo to season 4, and for Testament, I've tried to play Testament every single season except for 4 for some amount of time as a counterpick to heavy characters. If you're ever curious why Testament players don't use some common tactics you see on other characters, the reason is probably because the character can't do it at all. So let's use this mix up, for example, Soul. So you do close slash shift jump BRC forward, you JP, you do either 3 JPs as I did in this example, 1, 2, 3, or you do 1 JP into low like this. So why do you do it this way, you might ask? The main reason being, if you do close slash into BSC forward land 2K, this is punishable by throw. So by adding this jump P, you make it so that you can't be thrown. This is a simple but strong 50-50 with pretty good reward considering the cost. And with no threat of throw, you can have that 2K in there for the low into a nice combo. Now, despite the appearance of this JP, Testament cannot squeeze in this third JP at all. It's not like they're not trying, the character just can't do it. But on the other hand, you'll hear things about characters being parroted pretty often by people who don't play the character. So one thing I heard about May was that she had a 4-way mix-up. That was the big thing that was broken about her once they added the hop, a move she got in season 3, was that now all her knockdowns led into a 4-way mix-up. So not a 50-50, but like a 25-25, 25-25. I think I said that 4 times. Now, here's the thing. I could not find one for the life of me, a way to do a 4-way mix-up. And don't get me wrong, I was determined to find a way to do this. I ended up settling on her not having one. Now, we are talking about season 3, but essentially the problem came from she just didn't have a way to reliably line up options before. So I decided to settle on going one side overhead and the other side low, which is a mix-up structure I use for a bunch of characters and I found to be pretty strong. I also found that normally when you talk about looping mix-ups, it's not usually that good in this game, and people were mad at this, but you'd have to think about reward quite a bit, because if you're looping mix-ups with her, that means you're basically cashing out for like this much damage over and over. Not only is it not worth it in the game in general, but also you're playing May. One of her big things is cashing out with damage. Usually you'd have to either use some type of resource or just have a favorable position on the screen. But if you watch replays of May playing, sometimes you'll see extended sequences of them looping this style of mix-up. And there's definitely merit to building meter here, but you could access that meter faster and doing more damage by just aiming for something more tight and cashing out quickly, which is the method I ended up going for. Even to this day, I would say probably about half the casts, I think, could be pushed a lot harder. And this is a great thing. It just means people need to experiment more and there's more to explore in the game. And the last really big thing I learned was that thing that developers were talking about at the beginning of season 4, the character identity, how they want people to pick characters to do specific things and not really have overlap between the characters. And I think they did a really good job of this season. We can look at the fast characters, for example. So Chip is clearly the fastest character, and with his new move, Tightrope, he has a unique way of traversing his screen with new normals. His pressure is more focused on building meter and being tricky with his Rekka and his clone. Milia has unique dives, and special moves are cancelable into each other, while also being very fast on the ground. She really is more focused on being tricky compared to Chip. So not only does she have these special moves, but also the fact that Turbo Fall steals the corner. And unlike Chip's standard but very good backdash, that it goes really far and it really suits a fast character like him, her backdash is really fast and the fastest group actually at 16 frames. Her block string pressure is not as good as Chip's, but she makes up for it with superior mix-ups, both with things like H-Disc and how she uses her jump-ins. Now, Giovanna is also fast, but she does not run. Instead, she has a step dash that speeds up when she has more meter. Her whip punish game is superior to the other fast characters, and her conversion ability is better, more consistent as well. She also has straight up the best block string pressure out of the 3. with a stronger close slash that's more advantageous on block, a multi-hitting low designed to target throw defense, and chip damage on her normals the more meter that she has. Previously, people never really compared Giovanna and Milia. They were different enough that people were like, yeah, these are two different characters that do two different things. But on launch, I used to get DMs and messages all the time asking me, why am I playing Milia? I should drop her for Chip, because they felt so similar to people. I think the good news now is like that question just doesn't exist really unless you're a tournament player. You're thinking strictly about character power, like how good the character is and how much they can help you in a competitive setting. Overall though, I'm just glad I got to play so many characters in this game, and I'm looking forward to trying the last two, Unica from the anime and Lucy, the first guest character. Let me know what you guys think though. As usual, if you have any questions or comments, definitely feel free to leave them in the comment section below. I do have a Patreon where I post content early and other stuff too. Honestly, it's kind of just whatever I want, but I post there pretty consistently right now. That's patreon.com/LordKnight. If you want any Guilty Gear coaching, that's at metafy.gg/@LordKnight as well. I stream on most days, weekdays, twitch.tv/LordKnight, and we practice there, hang out, and most importantly, record videos for my second channel, LordKnight Chronicles. So go check that out as well. Like and subscribe if you guys feel like it, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace out.